Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me and happy Monday. It is Ghost Story Day today, where I'll be creating a look based on A Way to Die, which I won't be today because I haven't thought of a way, and reading your ghost stories that you send in to me right here. We don't have the candlestick today because my candles have run out of battery and they just look a bit trashy. So I have some new candles coming. So if you want to send me any of your ghost stories, you can send them right here anywhere to this email address. Ghost stories, real people stories, aliens, what else? I don't know. Weird occurrences. Then send them to me and I'll read them out here on my channel. Okay, so we're gonna do, I just really wanted to use these eyeshadows today and I always forget how to pronounce this. Cleonda, I want to say. Cleonda, and look how just stunning these are. So I want to use like some of these on the lid just with like a really neutral base in the background. I'm going to use a Muse palette from Vive. Just to create a nice neutral like and read your stories. So let's do it. Let's dive straight into it. I've cheated a bit. I've already done my my base. So cheating there. It's okay to cheat, kids. Cheat. No, don't. Okay. Okay, our first story today is called My Late Auntie's Phone. It says, "Hi Robert, I love you and the videos you make, especially your ghost stories and makeup segment. Thank you. Your soothing voice helps me sleep a lot." Oh, well, good night. When I was younger, I would always experience a lot of paranormal stuff at the house where we used to live. And this story I'm about to tell you is not really that scary, but one of my most memorable ones, so I hope you enjoy it. This goes way back to when I was 9 years old. My auntie just died from a hit and run accident. She was hospitalized for a few days and then passed away shortly after. So I was in the bedroom with my dad and sister. And my dad showed me a cell phone inside a Ziploc bag. It was an old, broken Nokia 3210 phone. He told me that it was my auntie's phone, and I really can't remember why they gave it to us. I was left alone inside the bathroom, and I was minding my business. Then I heard a cell phone start ringing. So I looked for it, and it was on top of a dresser. When I saw the phone, it was my auntie's phone ringing. And a creepy part about it was the battery of the cell phone was separated in another Ziploc bag. And the phone was too broken for it to still be functional. When I saw that, I screamed for my dad. And when he got there, the phone just stopped ringing. I told him what happened, but he just teased and joked about it. Later that night, I would dream about my auntie saying her goodbyes. Then my sister woke me up saying she couldn't sleep because she saw an old person kiss my forehead. And the thing is, it was only me, my sister, and my dad in the house at that time. Now we just laugh when we talk about it. But even now, I still wonder if it was my auntie or something else trying to communicate with me. Aww. That does sound like a form of somebody trying to communicate. That's really cute. I like that. Thank you so much for sharing that experience with us. I greatly appreciate it. Moving on to our next story. This is called Sometimes Mirrors Are Good. Hey Robert, I really love your videos, so I wanted to send in my own story. So my dad is kind of superstitious. And when we moved to our new house, he hung up a tiny, around the size of a 50-cent coin, circular mirror above our front door to keep the spirits out, he said, when I asked him what it was about. A few years ago when I was around 17, I remember when I got back to the house after walking home from school, the mirror had fallen down onto the ground, probably from the wind because we were having some really wild weather that day. I picked it up, brought it inside so Dad could hang it up when he got home from work. But my clown self forgot after a few hours of games with my friends. That night, when I woke up needing to go to the bathroom, my room's straight at the end of the hall, while the toilet is halfway down the hall. So I turned on my room light and I opened the door. Always light is sensor light. When it sees movement, it turns on, and usually it will turn on the moment my door opens. But it didn't that night. It was weird. And from the light in my room, I could just barely make out something dark and shadowy standing opposite me. It was dark and tall, but I could see the outline of arms and hands. I closed the door. I think I stood there for almost a minute, trying to process what I saw. But then I pulled myself together and opened the door again. It was still there. And I swear to God, it looked like it was just a little bit closer to me. So I closed the door again. I thought about going back to sleep and just pretending that I never saw anything, but I really, really had to pee. So I remember grabbing both my laptop and my phone, turning on both their screens onto the brightest settings and turning on the flashlight on my phone. I shone the light down the hallway before fully opening the door, and I ran down the hall. For some reason, the sensor light only turned on when I was pretty much at the toilet. My bathroom and toilet are in separate rooms, so I turned on the bathroom's heater light, which is super bright and warm and yellow, before going to the toilet. That was the only time I'd ever gone to the toilet that quickly, and the only time I've gone with a door to the toilet open. The next day, I personally went and grabbed a stool and hung that mirror above the front door, and I've never seen anything since. I don't know what it was, and I prefer never knowing, especially since I almost peed myself. Not an experience I'd like to have again. That is not an experience I would like to have ever. Something creeping up to you, especially when you need the toilet. You have to go, you have to go. You don't want anyone like blocking your way. Listen, always listen to your parents, your grandparents' superstitions. They know what's going on. If they tell you to put, I don't know, a rabbit's tooth in your shoe, do it. Okay, next up we have an audio story. If you want to send your voice, if you want to send me your story in form of an audio or a video, that'd be great. Gives me time to catch up on my makeup. And yeah, so this is called Ghost Story.
Hi Robert, I love watching your videos and I've thought about sending this story ever since I stumbled across your series. Here it is. I hope you like it. A little over 10 years ago, it was probably early winter, I was going through a divorce and it was not going very well. I had moved back to my hometown and I had to find a house as quickly as I possibly could for my kids and I. I ended up finding a cabin-style house really close to the beach at the end of a dead-end road. It needed a ton of work, but the homeowner no longer lived in that area and they just wanted somebody that was going to take care of it and not let it sit empty since it had suffered some recent vandalism. He was going to allow me to move in with no deposits and the cheapest rent I have paid in almost 20 years, and I could have my dog. He said I could do whatever I wanted decor-wise within reason. He would either reimburse me for the materials or take it off the rent. And he was just basically very grateful that he didn't have to look too far for someone that was reliable until they could decide what they wanted to do with the property. It was perfect. No close-by neighbors, only a short drive down the street to the bus stop, and high-speed internet accessible. It had everything I could need at this time in my life, and more. I had a couple weeks to really do some deep cleaning before having to move my kids in, and I was going to need it. I had an unexpected Saturday where I was able to be there all day and far into the night if I needed to. I took advantage of that and I cleaned and cleaned. I may have been going overboard somewhat, but the interior paneling was pretty dark, so it was difficult to really see where all the dirt was, and I wanted to be safe than sorry. When it hit about 6 p.m., I finally decided to take a break and go get something to eat before getting back to it. I came back about an hour later, tossed my keys on the counter that separated the kitchen from the living room. I took off my shoes to change into my filthy working shoes and turned on one of the lights. As soon as I turned around to grab those other shoes, I noticed that there was a pile of strange trash and items that were not there before in the middle of the living room. Instantly, I got goosebumps and I took a step back while scanning the room. I had only had a chance to turn on the small lamp by the door, so the entire house, including a large majority of the living room, was in the shadows. My ears started to ring as I attempted to listen for any sounds, and I was completely frozen on the spot. The temperature in my hands instantly dropped, and my entire body felt heavy with anticipation of what may happen. I looked around the room, and the darkened doorways of the other rooms seemed to grow slightly and bow towards me as if waiting with devilish glee to see what I was going to do next. At that moment, I realized I had stopped breathing and I was probably getting faint to have caused that effect. I took a slow, shaky breath. With that breath, my mind instantly became sharp and I started trying to think about what to do. My cell phone was in my car and I was all alone. I took another step backwards, my eyes darting doorway to darkened corner to doorway to darkened corner until I had looked the entire room. I could see nothing. I reached my hand back, took one more small step, and touched the door. I slid my fingers across the barrier to my prison that mere seconds before was clean and inviting. I touched the door handle, and the second my fingers touched that cold metal, it turned the knob a small bit. The noise was so loud and invasive that I jumped slightly. At that exact moment, a woman with matted long hair and the widest, wild eyes I have ever seen stepped out of the shadows in the corner and screamed, "This is my house! You don't belong here!" She was barefoot, filthy, and was wearing a long white dress that ended about mid-shin. How did I not see her in the shadows? My mind screamed at me. She is wearing a white dress. All the while, I was frozen in place, hands on that knob and poised to run. She reached both her hands up, and with both hands gripping onto her hair on either side of her head, she pulled so hard I flinched, seeing the sight of the pain shoot across her dirty face. It instantly dawned on me that she pulled her hair at a strange angle on one side of her head. Dread filled my body and everything started going in such slow motion I swore I could hear the movement of my eyes as they flicked to the other side of her head to see the dull glint of a large knife in her hand. She held it out towards me and started babbling, mostly incoherently, about how I'm stealing her home while walking towards me. I pulled open the door and it caused her to start running my way. Everything is still going in slow motion as I ran down the porch steps, her hot on my heels. The second my feet hit the dirt, I realized my keys were on the counter. I couldn't get in my car, and she was running after me in a way that I did not safely think I could get around her to run down the street. Having grown up here my whole life, I knew that if I ducked through the back, I could probably hide in the dunes from her or run down the beach to a nearby home. I am in no way a fast runner, and being barefoot, I was not able to get too far ahead. I was trying to find any dune area high enough to hide behind, and in my perspective, the closest house looked a bit further than I anticipated. The dune grass whipped at my legs, stinging me as though punishing me with hundreds of paper cuts, but I barely noticed. Much like not noticing when I stepped on small pieces of driftwood or the base of the dune grass piles that any other time would hurt my feet so intensely, I usually avoid those areas at all costs when I go to the beach. Instead of looking ahead, I happened to glance down just in time to see a bit ahead of me a beer bottle in the cold sand, bottom side up, glinting in the moonlight. Instinctively, I reached down and pulled it out of the sand as I weaved around it, thankful I had not stepped on it. My brain was in high-speed panic mode, but everything around me was moving slow as cooling lava. My thoughts zeroed in on that bottle. I ran my fingers over the bumps along the bottom, the sand gritting against the glass under my fingers as I stopped all of a sudden, spun around, and threw the bottle at her with all of my "Stacy." My eyes snapped open, and I looked at my boyfriend at the time and felt the widest awake I have ever felt. "Are you okay? You woke me up breathing heavy and sounding like you were trying to scream." I stared at him without saying a word. "Stacy?" "I'm awake," I say, calm as a cucumber, and then I told him my dream. This dream started my 10-plus year journey of dealing with sleep paralysis and lucid dreaming. Anytime I'm either having a nightmare or even any other kind of dream where I become aware that I'm dreaming, I'm unable to wake myself up. I have to panic in my dream and start screaming to the point where I start panicking in real life. Just enough for somebody to hear me make noise. I never scream out loud. Everyone says it is like I am muffled and my voice does not sound like mine at all, as though a totally different person is yelling into a pillow, and all they have to do is say my name and I can snap awake. No one has to touch me. You don't have to yell my name. You just have to say my name. I've been able to control it pretty decently the last year or so, but this story is still the one I tell, as it is the catalyst from where it all began. I can smell, feel, talk in my dreams. It is though it's 100% real life, and it is terrifying. Even if the dream subject matter is not scary, as soon as I realize I'm dreaming, the terror begins. Anyway, I hope this wasn't too long for you. I like to tell it exactly as I experienced it. Again, I love your series and your looks, and I have a fantastic time watching you. Thank you so much.
Perfection. That was so amazing. Thank you so. I have I have chills. My God. I was like, how's it gonna end? Let me just say, I'm happy that story was a dream, but at the same time, sleep paralysis is on another level. Thank you so much for that amazingly written out, well-read story. So while I'm waiting for my lash glue to dry and stick them on, we have one more story for today. It's called Curious Patients. My husband is a drywall taper and he worked in a hospital. After hours, when the hospital was closed, he went to work and remodeled offices that were water damaged in a storm. He worked with his brother-in-law in this hospital. It was very hot and humid in this building, but my husband could always control his body heat and it didn't bother him. He climbed an 8-foot ladder and started coating the ceiling. Then all of a sudden, he noticed an old man in a hospital gown standing beside him, out the corner of his eye. So my husband turned his head towards the patient, but he was gone. My husband was confused and just stood there and listened for doors or the elevator door, but nothing. So we got down and walked to the door, looked down the hallway both sides, and there was no one there. So we called out, "Hello, are you lost?" But no one answered him. So he went back to work, and his co-worker came in and asked him how he was doing. My husband didn't want to tell him what happened and said everything was fine. His co-worker started teasing him about the heat and said where he was working was nice and cool. So they both went back to work, and 30 minutes later his co-worker screamed, and my husband ran towards him. He was hyperventilating. My husband calmed him down and asked him what happened. And his co-worker said he was coating the top of the vents. When he opened one of the vents, there was an old woman with white hair in a hospital gown sitting inside the vent, holding her knees, looking at him. So my husband climbed the ladder, opened the vent, and a mist came out, but there was no one inside. My husband got down and looked at these vents, and it turned out it was a bunch of refrigerators for dead bodies. My husband told his brother-in-law what they were, and he freaked out. They both turned the corner and saw rows and rows of these refrigerators down the hall. After this, they both decided to pack up their tools and leave. The next morning, they went to their boss and yelled at him. He didn't tell them that they were working in a morgue. We are Native American and we're not supposed to be near the dead. Otherwise, we have problems in life. That is cheeky. If you tell someone exactly where they're going to work, especially a morgue, especially somewhere that people might have some kind of trigger with, Horrible. Thank you so much for your story. What a terrifying experience. Can you imagine just seeing someone tucked up and staring back at you when you open a door? While I stick on my lashes, we're going to look at some TikToks. Let's take a look.
Finally get the ghost on camera. Gotta play it so the baby doesn't get scared.
Hi, a pretty girl. Look at your pretty new shoes. You got such pretty shoes. Hi, how about you? I didn't know you were here. Here.
Was it the bag? The bag kind of looked like it was being tugged a little bit. Was that it? But also, like, what an asshole ghost. Why would you just pull someone's stuff? Attention seeking. Okay, let's take a look at our second one. I'm not looking at that. That is terrifying. This is the thing. Mirrors, glass, like being able to see through things. I don't like it. I don't like it. I would throw up. If that was me, I would throw up. This lash isn't sticking on. So let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for all your stories. Like I said, if you have any stories, please go ahead and send them right here to this email address, and I will hopefully read them out here. It's just pinked up. Thank you so much again, and I will see you soon. Bye.